Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Architecture Topics. I'm your host, Liam Karen, and today I want to take you on a journey to the heart of the city of love, Paris. We're traveling back in time to the late 1960s and early 70s to explore a building that challenged everything we thought we knew about architecture, a structure that turned the museum inside out, quite literally. I'm talking about the Centre Pompidou. But before we get there, as always, a quick reminder, if you love architecture and want more of this show, you can subscribe to Architecture Topics on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening right now. It's a small action, but it really helps. Okay, back to Paris. Late 60s, the Centre Pompidou. Let's go. As it often happens in architecture, the Centre Pompidou was the result of a series of conditions and circumstances that created the perfect mix for a project like this to be possible. Let's explore what some of those circumstances were. The late 1960s and early 70s were a time of major cultural and social change in France. The student protests of 1968 had shaken the country, challenging authority and demanding greater access to education, culture, and public spaces. At the same time, in 1966, there were talks about building a new public library in Paris, as the existing Bibliothèque Nationale was considered insufficient for the growing demand. And around the same time as well, there were discussions about establishing a modern art museum in France, as many contemporary works were not well represented in existing institutions like the Louvre. Then there was the area of the city known as Plateau Beaubourg, a somewhat rundown part of the city filled with a mix of buildings, including industrial workshops, market buildings, and other urban structures. Some of the buildings were remnants of the nearby market of Les Halles, which moved out of the city in 1969. After the market moved, the Plateau Beaubourg area started decaying quickly, and the authorities started considering the idea of demolishing many of the existing structures. It was in this climate of transformation that President Georges Pompidou approved plans for a new kind of cultural center. His vision? A single, multidisciplinary cultural complex. A space that would merge a library, a museum, and venues for contemporary art, music, and performance. Not just to preserve culture, but to produce it. A place that would be open to everyone, reflecting the democratic spirit of the times. And what better place to build such vision than the Plateau Beaubourg? A supercentral location in desperate need of reinventing itself. To make this vision a reality, the government launched an international architectural competition in 1971. It was one of the most ambitious competitions of its time, attracting 681 entries from 49 countries. The jury, led by the esteemed architect Jean Prouvé, was looking for something truly revolutionary. And they found it. Out of hundreds of entries, one proposal stood apart, a design so radical that it divided opinions from the start. Renzo and Richard Rogers, two young and relatively unknown names, had envisioned a building turned completely inside out, both figuratively and literally. Piano, Italian, had a background in lightweight structures and experimental materials, while Rogers, British, was fascinated by modular construction and high-tech design. What set their proposal apart was its bold rejection of traditional museum architecture. Instead of a grand enclosed monument, they envisioned a machine-like structure, one that celebrated transparency, technology, and flexibility. The functional elements like pipes, ducts, escalators, and structural supports were all moved to the exterior, freeing up the interior as a vast, uninterrupted space. Their approach was deeply influenced by the emerging high-tech movement, which took cues from factories, oil refineries, and modular construction. The idea was simple. Buildings should be functional, efficient, and adaptable, capable of evolving with time, rather than being frozen in a single form. This was a radical departure from the elegant classical buildings that defined Paris. A museum was traditionally a formal, controlled space, but Piano and Rogers wanted something different, a place that felt open, accessible, and alive. Instead of concealing pipes, ducts, and elevators behind walls, the Centre Pompidou exposes everything, turning the building into an architectural X-ray. This wasn't just a bold aesthetic choice. It allowed for a completely open interior, free of structural obstructions, making it one of the most flexible museum spaces in the world. To make the exterior both functional and visually clear, elements were color-coded. Blue for air conditioning, green for plumbing, yellow for electrical wiring, and red for circulation, including escalators and elevators. The structure itself consists of huge, exposed, steel trussed beams supporting a 165-meter long, 60-meter wide, and 42-meter-high volume. To put that in perspective, it's about 1.5 football fields long. It's as wide as the wingspan of a Boeing 747. And at 42 meters high, it's roughly as high as an average 10-story building. Its most iconic feature is the external escalator, a transparent tube that snakes up the facade. More than just a way to move between floors, it was designed to be part of the experience, gradually revealing sweeping views of Paris as visitors ascend. But if the design was meant to invite the public in, its radical appearance had the opposite effect on some. From the moment its design was unveiled, the Centre Pompidou was met with fierce opposition. Many Parisians were horrified. Some called it an oil refinery, others a factory, or a monstrosity of pipes and steel. One newspaper mockingly dubbed it Notre Dame de la Tuyauterie, Our Lady of the Pipes. Even within the architectural world, opinions were divided. Critics argued that its industrial aesthetic clashed with the historic elegance of Paris. But while traditionalists hated it, younger generations and the art world embraced its boldness. The very things critics despised, its exposed infrastructure, bright colors, and unconventional form, made it exciting and different. And then, when the Centre Pompidou opened in 1977, people came. Lots of them. In its first year alone, over 7 million visitors passed through its doors, making it an overwhelming success. What had been mocked as a blight on Paris was suddenly one of its most visited landmarks. Over time, the backlash faded. Like the Eiffel Tower before it, the Centre Pompidou transformed from an object of controversy into an undeniable icon. But beyond the debate over its appearance, what truly mattered was what happened inside. The Centre Pompidou wasn't just a museum, it was a cultural engine. From day one, it redefined how people interacted with art, turning the experience from something formal into something accessible and dynamic. At its core was the Musée National d'Art Moderne, home to one of the largest collections of modern and contemporary art in the world, with works by Picasso, Kandinsky, Duchamp, and Warhol. But unlike traditional museums, the Pompidou encouraged experimentation. It hosted performances, film screenings, and interactive exhibits. Beyond art, it houses a massive public library, one of the few in Paris open to everyone. It also became a hub for musical and acoustic research, thanks to IRCAM, a cutting-edge institute founded within the complex. Yet, some of the most important cultural moments didn't happen inside the building at all. The Pompidou wouldn't be the Pompidou without its piazza, an open space with a footprint as large as the building itself. This plaza has a considerable slope towards the museum, turning it into a sort of amphitheater, a lively gathering spot filled with street performers, musicians, and artists. The energy spills out of the museum and into the streets, making culture feel alive, organic, and natural, a part of everyone's daily lives, as opposed to a rigid experience that only a selected few could understand and enjoy. In sum, what had once been called an eyesore was now an essential part of Parisian life. Decades after its opening, the Centre Pompidou is no longer just a building. It's a symbol of boldness and reinvention. It changed the way people experience art and public space, proving that architecture can be provocative, unconventional, and still deeply functional. It paved the way for high-tech architecture, influencing projects all around the world. But perhaps its greatest achievement is its ability to evolve. It was never meant to be static, and half a century later, it remains as relevant and radical as ever. The Centre Pompidou reminds us that architecture isn't just about buildings, it's about ideas, about questioning conventions, pushing boundaries, and daring to imagine something completely new. And that's it for today's episode of Architecture Topics. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And if you can, leave a review. I'm Liam Karen, and I'll see you next time as we uncover more of the world's most fascinating architecture. Until then, keep looking up.